It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Depauw Tigers head field hockey coach, Coach Olivia Shagam. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college field hockey?
So I always knew that I wanted to coach field hockey like in some capacity pretty much since high school and college. But then in college, um, I minored in athletic coaching, and once my college career was over, kind of working with the different levels, I've found myself gravitating towards the high schoolers that wanted to play at the next level and then working with the college kids. I was like, I think the collegiate level is the way to go for me. And I also just had a great time as a college athlete. So I think that's a part of it as well.
What was your experience like getting to represent Central Michigan and getting to represent the field hockey program?
Um, Looking back on my 4 years there, it could not have been a more perfect fit for me in terms of I gained so much knowledge of the game. I gained a lot of discipline, a lot of life skills, time management that I don't think if I wasn't a Division 1 athlete, I probably wouldn't be as well off as I am now. So I think Central Michigan was that place for me to really hone in and like absorb all that information. And then not to mention the fact that I think they continue to recruit and bring people on a team that I think had the same values as me. So I just meshed really well with every person that kind of came through that program. And I still stay in touch with them to this day.
Of course, what was that like getting to put on that uniform for Central Michigan and getting to represent the field hockey program?
I thought it was really fun. I think the biggest thing, and I even still tell my athletes to this day, is that put it every game day, putting on that jersey is just a reminder that not everybody gets to do this. And that it's a privilege and not a right to do it. Like I look at the statistics even for NCAA for field hockey, and it's like very minimal percentages across all three divisions of you actually like the percentages of people that compete as a whole from high school up into college is very small for field hockey. And so it is truly like an honor just to no matter what team you're with to put that jersey on at the collegiate level.
What were some of your collegiate accomplishments in playing field hockey?
I mean, first and foremost, the most fun and most memorable would be winning regular season conference in 2014, which would have been my junior year. Um, that was against Kent State. We knew if we won this game that we were going to win regular season. So that was the most memorable. But something that my teammates and I that we still talk about and pride ourselves on too was my freshman and sophomore years, so 2012 and 2013. Our team were number one for team GPA and in 2012, and then number two for team GPA in 2013 for all of Division 1 field hockey. And so it was just also an accomplishment to say not only do we compete on the field, but we also compete off the field and we take our academics seriously.
Of course, as a player, what were some of your game day routines and rituals like?
I mean, my players do the same thing now. But I was probably one of the first people into the locker room in terms of getting to turn on the stereo, just slowly getting ready, do my hair. But yeah, that's definitely my ritual is I was definitely the one in the middle of the locker room dancing. I'm not the one to be in the corner and put my headphones on and kind of keep to myself, which I don't judge in any way, but I was definitely the person that was in the middle of the locker room, chatting with everybody, just kind of getting excited.
Of course, as a player, what was that transition like from being a collegiate player to getting into coaching and becoming a grad assistant?
I think the hardest thing at first was kind of realizing I can't I was normally as a collegiate athlete kind of a leader by example more than a vocal leader. Like I really tried to embody being coachable whenever I was given a new skill and trying to display that and just show my determination. And I think the hardest thing going into coaching had to be the fact that like now I had to verbalize this a lot more. Like I'm not going to be put on the field with them. So kind of choosing my wording and my tone so that way my players absorbed what I was trying to say in the best way possible. But I will say the nice thing about being a grad assistant was like being fresh out of college, I still was in a position to like jump into drills and games and scrimmages for practices. So I still kind of led by an example in that way, which I probably don't do as much anymore, but definitely learning how to verbalize and communicate effectively.
What was your experience like getting to go to Wittenberg University to become the grad assistant for the field hockey program?
Um, I would say, like I said, trying to think of how to say this. There's like a difference between being a student athlete and being a student coach, I think. So like in college, it was more of how you can work with yourself and be a better teammate from like an individual standpoint, while going to grad school and being also an assistant coach is how you can work with others. So once again, that verbalizing, like having the right tone, how do you have the people you work with absorb the information that you want them to absorb? So it's not to say that I never focused on being a good teammate in undergrad. It just came from more of an individual standpoint. While being an actual grad assistant, I was developing and focusing, how to have our players work together, build that teamwork, and focusing more on others and less on myself.
What was it like getting to go to Central College and becoming the assistant coach for the field hockey program?
So yeah, center was a really good time for me. It was a great transition. I really did enjoy my time. It was special to me because like I got to move up from being a grad assistant to now being a full-time coach. And like get to fully take that on, like have that be my main focus. And so I was very happy to get to coach full time and going on the career path that I wanted. But I really also wanted to give a huge shout out to Janelle Anthony Downs. She was a head coach and she's still a mentor to me to this day. Like we could not have been a better fit for each other. Like I was her first full-time assistant coach. It used to be a dual sport role between field hockey and lacrosse. So she never had anybody full-time. I was someone that was determined and ready to, make this full-time something like really important and special. And so I really enjoyed working with her. We were also just two personalities that I think worked really well together that like breeded the success that our team was able to have. Like we had two NCAA appearances in my 3 seasons there. And we just also went on a lot of adventures as a team. We traveled a lot because we have a pretty big conference, but then we get slated to go all the way to Christopher Newport from Kentucky. I've checked off a lot of things on my bucket list, and it happens to be with the members of the center field hockey team.
Of course, while as the assistant coach, what were some of the things that you learned to then help you to make that jump to become a head coach and run your own program?
Yeah, so I would say what was really great was like I think my schooling at Wittenberg helped me kind of understand the administrative side and role of collegiate coaching. So like nothing really came as a surprise when I want to transition to that next level. But the great thing about center is I think it was a place to then transition to a full time. And it really helped me build my confidence in terms of like the things I learned in grad school, I was implementing as an assistant, thus making me prepared to go to that head coach level. And so I really think the biggest thing that center gave me was like that confidence to move on to the next level because of the opportunities that I was given there.
What was that feeling like when you did get that head coaching job and coming to DePaul and getting to run your own program?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, that confidence, I honestly felt ready. I was ready to become a head coach. I was in a place in my life that I wanted to make this transition. Um, so I was really excited for it. yeah, I just think I did the steps in my career to help get there, and it made the transition kind of smooth, actually.
Of course, after getting announced to become the next head coach, what was that process like building the coaching staff and the team around you?
Yeah, so I was, like I said, very excited, but it was also somewhat bittersweet in terms of, as I mentioned before, I really enjoyed my time at center. It was hard to leave a place I had built a community around. I was there for 3 years. It's the longest place I've stayed now at this time. But I was also extremely happy when I was offered the position at DePauw because like I had a fabulous time on my interview. Just like everything I experienced there on my interview, I was like, this is a place where I can be successful and have the resources to then make this program successful.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the field hockey field for the first time as a head coach?
Well, I will say my first game this past fall was against Center, my former place of work. Obviously knew a lot of the girls, had built relationships with them. So once again, that bittersweet moment came, but then it also heightened my competitiveness and desire to win now having transitioned and taken things on my own. And I think in my pregame speech and everything leading up to that, like I expressed that very clearly to my team, and they just took it and ran with it and made it their own excitement. So I was very honored to have my first game against my former place of work on the home field at DePauw. Like they gave me a game ball that I had all of them signed, and it sits in my office, and it's honestly a good reminder of why I transitioned into this role and why by life and experience now I've ended up at DePauw.
Of course, what was that game like, obviously getting to coach against your former team that you coached at?
Um, like obviously the ability to win, but like it's hard to think about the fact too that I still always wanted them to be successful. Um, but then also even seeing some improvement because I only got a couple practices in the spring with the team during our non-traditional season. So I didn't have too much time with them. But even seeing that transition of the teamwork that was built in spring to how it transitioned into the fall was amazing to see. And like it's something I come back to a lot after having finished my first season and being like, this is why I do this. This, like, how this game came out and looked was just like, it was like, this is the reason why I do this. And like, something I always mention too is some of our prettiest goals from this past season were in that game. Like, anytime I did like our end of season video or I submitted it to like our SID for our awards show, I was like, literally one of the goals in there is probably one of the best goals we've had all season was in that first game.
Of course, in your first season, what have been some of your biggest accomplishments in your first season?
I think first and foremost, my goal going into season was based off of like the previous season of like they were 5-11 with only 16 goals. My goal, and I even was very transparent with the team about it, was I was like, I want to have more wins than losses. And I was like, we need to at least double the amount of goals we had last season. And from there, my 2022 season, we ended 13-6 with 46 goals. So once again, I was transparent with that opportunity. And there's something to be said about that tangible goal and standard to be met that once again, it was another opportunity that my team just took it and ran with it.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture as head coach that you have built for DePaul?
Um, yeah, so I would say one of the biggest things is that um is I would change like the tense of the word built and actually change it to present tense in terms of building. That's something that I express with my players. That's something I express with my players now. And when I talk to recruits, is that in this point in time with DePaul, we are a team that is building a culture. And what's nice is that they get to kind of be firsthand a part of that. Like I'm not somebody that like, yes, I have standards of I want the team to be competitive on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom, and excelling in their extracurricular activities. But the one thing I do share is that this is a current building process, and like it's exciting to get to be a person that can be a part of that building and somebody that can help solidify the pillars that will be a part of our program by the time that they graduate, and that the people that I bring in after them have to follow these standards that were set by them.
Of course, what is that game day atmosphere like when you play at home?
So we normally play our games Saturday, Sunday. So what we usually have is, once again, we get to the locker room pretty early. You'll have to excuse him. He's always in terms of wanting to join us Zoom. Um, is once again, we're a team that likes to get to the locker room early, get the music going, take our time. We are one that, like, once we step on that field, we're ready to go. So that locker room is definitely like, give ourselves the time, take the time to, reflect, get motivated. And I think another part of it for them is making sure that they get their game day hair done in a appropriate time frame too, which is also very important to them. So we're definitely ones where like we really take the time to reflect and move kind of slowly
Of
on
course,
things.
what is that feeling like getting to play at home versus going away and traveling?
Um, Playing at home, honestly, what's really been great in this past season is by us being successful, I feel like we've built more of a fan base. I mean, don't get me wrong, Depauw, across all sports, we implement like show out games, show out series where like there we always pick like one game that everybody needs to go to. But consistently, what seems to happen too is that we just get more and more fans the better that we play. And that's something where I think they want to continue to compete well, because they're like, oh my gosh, my friends are here supporting me. Like they want to see me do my best. Like I would say, like us hosting conference tournament against Ohio Wesleyan this past fall, like those stands were like super full, like the most full I've probably ever seen them. And it was honestly like great to watch and get to hear everybody cheering us on.
Of course, who are some of the teams in your conference that you've faced each week?
Yeah, so our conference is primarily based out of Ohio. We have a couple affiliate schools as well. So like in the Ohio area, we have like outside of Columbus, outside of Cleveland. So like a lot of the people that we face multiple times throughout season based off of conference play and tournament is seeing Denison, Kenyon, Ohio Wesleyan, Wittenberg. And then we have Worcester and Oberlin outside in that Cleveland area. And then we have a couple of like affiliates. So we have Allegheny College and Washington and Jefferson in Pennsylvania. And then we have Transy in Kentucky and Earlham, who is like our interstate rival, I would say.
Of course, what is that game day like getting to play like teams like Ohio Wesleyan at home versus going to Wittenberg and playing them away?
Yeah. One thing I would say that's actually pretty good is the fact is that our team is always pumped for both. Obviously, there are uncontrollable factors that play into the perks of playing at home. Like you have your fans and your friends showing up, but also something that I really appreciate about our team in terms of our parents and our family members is whether it's home or away, they want to make the trip out to come see us, because we don't have any high school field hockey in Indiana. So like all of my players are from out of state. And so like the parents know when they make this dedication to go to games, like regardless of location, they just want to see their kids play. So it's always nice that no matter where we go, whether it's home or away, we have that family aspect. But also they know that, like, especially once conference play hits. So you've mentioned two conference opponents. They're like, every game is super important. So I would say in terms of their determination, like it's not any different. It's just, what are we going to do away on our away trip to make it feel more like home? So I would say one thing is like I bought a portable, like a big portable speaker to bring with us on away trips. So we bring it to the field for practices, but we'll also bring it on away trips. And I think like getting the music, once again, getting the music going in that locker room and making that locker room feel like our locker room at home is super important for them to feel comfortable.
Of course, what does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate field hockey?
Yeah, so something I always just tell them is just play, play, play. Like, I mean, whether you're just working on your skills in your backyard or at the field, but then also like continuing to play for your high school, your club programs, or even if you don't have a club, like there's been plenty of college showcase tournaments that have house league teams that you can just join and guest play on. Like I'm a little jealous because there's a lot more opportunities than when I was in high school. And trying to get recruited to play field hockey, there's a lot more opportunities now to, put your face out there, especially if you want to play at the next level. I don't think that there's a lack of resources to do so. You just have to know what they are. And honestly, as a college coach, that's somebody that I still want to be that person that can help direct you to get those opportunities for you. Like I've worked with a couple of club teams back home in Chicago, where I'm originally from. And I'm like, hey, even if Depauw isn't the place you want to go, if you have questions about like what are college coaches looking for and that general information, or what can you do to play more, like I'm more than happy to answer those questions.
Of course, as a college coach, what is that like going out on the road recruiting and looking at those prospective student athletes?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's my favorite part of the job of coaching is recruiting at tournaments, just because like I'm at college showcases or at the fields all day watching games. But what's nice is it's finally a game where I don't necessarily like the outcome of it isn't personal to me. So I'm there to watch good field hockey. But in terms of like the kids that I'm recruiting and looking for, I always say like reach out to me beforehand, because like I definitely will take the time to come and see at least 1 to 2 of your games in a weekend. Like I said, I'm at the fields all day for like 12 hours, and I know that sounds long, but it's like I said, it's fun. I actually enjoy it. Um, so yeah, the things that I kind of look for in the kids is like that like is just like kind of super easily like your vision, doing the simple well, making simple dodges, all that stuff. But then another part of it is being a good communicator on the field and off the field. So like how your body language looks, how you talk to your teammates, how you talk to your parents, how you talk to your coaches, I think is another huge piece that I think athletes to forget about, that's super important.
Of course, as a head coach, what does that recruitment process look like for you going to travel out of state when you said that not many places in state has field hockey?
Yeah, so I'm usually at all the big showcases. There are a couple that are during Thanksgiving. There's also a really big one at the beginning of the year in Florida. So like those are the top ones that I go to. But anything that's kind of more local, meaning like next state over, I'm usually out there. Or if it's a tournament that I didn't know about, but you're telling me that you're going to it, I might make the plan to go see it. But then the beauty of post COVID too is there's been a lot of tournaments that have been um live streamed and virtual recruiting. So like I always tell a kid, like, no matter what, if we've listed that we're going to a tournament or not, to always reach out to me about it, because there's a way that I can get film for it and still watch you compete and still like see if Depauw is a good fit for you.
What does that official visit look like for those prospective field hockey players looking to go to DePaul?
Yeah, that's a great question in terms of official visit, because official visits are so important. I think it's the last piece that a prospective student athlete needs to make their decision. And so, like, I take official visits very seriously in terms of, for me, making sure that that prospective student athlete gets everything that they need to see to feel comfortable about DePauw. So, some of it is obviously the classroom aspect, getting a tour of the campus, meeting with admissions, very typical stuff that you can also do on your unofficial visit. But another part of it is actually getting to see a practice and or a game, depending on the days that you come in. But then lastly, getting that alone time with the team to like ask any type of question that you want to them. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, be transparent about it, be honest about it. Because as much as they're kind of like essentially interviewing our school and seeing if it's a fit for them, I need you guys to ask them questions and get to know them to see if they're a good fit for our program. So that's a little bit of the two-way street of, I always tell a prospective student athlete, like, I want to give you all the resources to feel comfortable about DePauw, but also like my kids are also trying to see if you're going to be a good fit for the program.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like getting to see those freshmen put on that DePaul jersey for the first time?
I would say that I always end up seeing a little bit of myself in them in terms of my freshman year, in terms of being nervous and anxious of when will they get to get the opportunity to show what they have. Because like I think one thing that still is said today that was also said to me is like, don't be surprised if you don't play a ton at first, because I always tell all my athletes, like, you guys are the cream of the crop, the top of the areas that you came from. And so like the hardest decision I have to make as a coach is like, who's the best person put on the field? Like, you all clearly have talent. There's a reason why you're here. So obviously that's not what they want to hear if they're not playing, but I always tell them to kind of stay on their toes of when that opportunity will come. And I really do try to provide that opportunity at least a couple times within their freshman year. I'm not somebody that likes to keep people in, so I do pretty regularly sub, and like you never know when your opportunity is going to come. But I also really want them to understand that I've been in their shoes of like, there's been a game where I didn't play, and like it's not the end of the world. It's how do you move forward from that?
Of course, as a head coach, what is that feeling like getting to see those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time versus your seniors putting that on for the last time?
I think once again would be that like I've been in their shoes before. I'm never surprised when a senior gets really emotional after their last game, knowing that their career is over, because, you know, that's probably one of the times that I've cried the hardest that I've ever cried, especially publicly, is when I had my last game of my career. It's like being a student athlete, it's like go, go, go all the time. And then like that last game, that's that last time. And so like I kind of always try to, after their last game, I always try to have that moment with them to let them know that like, you know, no matter what the outcome was, like I know you did the best you could every single day when you came out on that field. And that really at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is that you did your best. You didn't give a lackluster effort, because if you did, you wouldn't have been a student athlete. And so like doing your best is all you can ask for. And that like, I think that you did it. And that I think by you doing that, you've helped your team grow.
What are some of your future plans for the field hockey program moving forward?
Yeah. So one of the things that our future plans was, one of the things I wanted to do was get out to the East Coast and play some competitive teams in the East Coast area. So like our team actually is going to Maryland this fall for Labor Day weekend. We'll be playing 2 teams out there. It's going to be fun. It's going to be competitive. And I think it's going to be great prep for conference season, because like our next goal from there is we won regular season conference championship in 2022. And I think the next step for us is how can we win that tournament championship, which then gives us an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. I know that's what I'm pushing for. That's what they're pushing for. So we're hoping that by making that trip this fall, it'll prep us for it. But then other things too, besides like making appearances in the NCAA tournament, you know, trying to exceed the standards. Like in 2012, DePauw was able to go to the Final Four. I'd love to make history and like meet that standard or go above it. We also have some opportunities where we may be able to travel internationally every couple of years. So that's also something that I think the team would really be looking forward to gain that experience and knowledge from.
What advice would you give those future collegiate athletes looking to play college field hockey?
Like I said, my advice is to just play as much as you can, as casually and as formally as possible, of like playing around in your backyard to like build your skills, get fast hands, but then also learning to play with other people. I think what's kind of cool that I get to see, especially with house league teams, is someone that's guest playing with a team that they've never played before, being able to jump in and communicate and be a good team player right away. And doing the simple well and those things of like not being flashy. It's like, how can I get the job done? Um, and just generate attack and do that stuff. So like I'm very interested to see when someone like jumps into a house league team with people that they've never played before, how they can transition into that role very quickly. But then same thing of like those that play on club teams with teammates that they've played with since they were little kids, like watching them be able to anticipate when their teammate's going to make a cut to space and being able to immediately give that ball, like that's taking that extra effort to get to know your teammate so that you and that teammate can work well together.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of college field hockey?
I mean, I would say the stereotypical, it's exciting and great if you are a true freshman and get to play, start, make an appearance in every single game. That's awesome. It's also hard to stay on, like the one thing that I've also heard from coaches is once you're on top, it's hard to stay on top. So being like, hey, you may have had like a very influential freshman year, but what are you going to do to maintain being an influential member of the team as you continue to get older and become more of a veteran member of the team, and how do you stay on the field and help your teammates? Another thing I would say though too is on the other side of things is please don't get so discouraged if you don't see as much playing time as you would previously seen in club and in high school. Like once again, you guys are all the cream of the crop of your areas, like you're the best of your area. Like when you bring all of those people together, it's a really hard decision as a coach of who's going to be the best fit for each game. And so it's not personal. It's just, okay, how can you excel? How can you develop and be better so that way we can get you on the field? Nothing's ever, as a coach, nothing's ever set in stone. So as long as you continue to try to grow and be better, like your opportunity will come.
Of course, what advice would you give those college athletes that are transitioning from being collegiate athletes to getting into coaching after their collegiate career?
Um, I would say the first thing would be to try not to get too frustrated when you're now in a position where you can't step on the field anymore. It's not going to happen, but it's okay. It's a learning moment. It's a learning curve. It's going to make you a better person of, okay, you can't get on the field and help your team anymore. So now, once again, think about how you deliver that tone to your players. How do you deliver the message in a succinct way that's going to actually help them like absorb that information and then go and do it themselves?
Of course, what advice would you give those assistant coaches looking to become head coaches one day?
A lot of it would be gaining experience. So like one, if you can go be an assistant coach at like a couple different colleges, so that way you learn how different conferences function, how different head coaches function. Like I think with the past two schools that I've been at, like I've taken things from the head coaches that I've absolutely loved, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely like when I become a head coach, I'm going to do that. And then there's some things where it's like, I don't know. What they did, I might tweak it in a way or two to, put my own personal twist on it. So like that experience is super valuable, but then also like institution to institution, also getting yourself out there and doing camps and clinics. One, it's great because it's a supplemental income by doing camps and clinics. You get to double dip by also recruiting most of those kids that you see. But then once again, there's multiple coaches there too, and you're learning things from them that you probably never learned. I think the biggest thing that I do when I do camps and clinics now, especially learning from other coaches, is like I pretty much almost always come home from a camp or clinic with a new drill that I had never thought of before. And so like um those are the things that you can do to help build your resume, network, and then once again, like like I did for myself at center, like feel comfortable and confident going in and transitioning to the next level as head coach.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Be patient, give it time, because I get impatient as it is, where I want things to happen right away. I think that's just something that's built in us as for a lot of us as former athletes, but then um, also a lot of us had maybe gone through programs where the culture was already built. But the whole thing is the culture that was previously built, like there was a time where it was being built. It was a building process. And so a lot of things take time, and be patient, even though I'll verbalize to other coaches and they tell me the exact same thing. And I sometimes just roll my eyes, but it's very true. Like when I come home and when I reflect on it post season of fall and spring, of being like, yeah, no, they're definitely right. Like this is going to take time. So I would say mostly it's time and patience, and also stay true to yourself in that way of like, don't build your outcomes and yourself around the team that you do have. Stick to your guns and build for the team that you want to have, and the players that you currently have will slowly adhere to those standards as well.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program app?
Well, Instagram is my favorite, so at Depauw Field Hockey on Instagram, but then we're also on Twitter. Um, and I love staying up to date. You always can email me with any questions or advice. Olivia Shagam at depauw.edu. But yeah, I always love to talk field hockey. I always love to talk the coaching process, and it's been fun. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Coach Olivia Shagman, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Depauw Tigers as the head field hockey coach.
Thank you so much.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Olivia Shagman, for your interview.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.